Welcome to the State of Developer Education, a podcast by Major League Hacking. We explore how technical leaders are creatively tackling the developer education gap to help prepare the next generation of technologists for the real world and build businesses that can adapt to any changes in the technology ecosystem. I'm your host, John Gottfried. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode. I'm here with Josh Poddoku, lead developer evangelist for Marico and Apache DevLake. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. I'm excited to have you here. I always like to start off and get a little bit of background from my guests. So going way back in time to the beginning of your career, tell me about your early days as a software engineer. How did you end up on this path?
Yeah, thanks for asking and thanks for inviting me here. So, John, look, basically, I was a computer science student back then. I think I joined the college in 2017. So as I was pursuing the computer science, so I was not really into academics. Like I was away from the academics and
Me neither.
totally into, yeah. So like totally into, community building, impacting people, helping others. So I was, into mentoring different people, let's say even my friends. So, I was exploring all the opportunities and everything like that. But my passion for, becoming a software engineer or getting into computer science was maybe in my during my teenage. That's when I really started exploring tech. Like finding solutions which like softwares to install stuff with your family, and everybody used to come to me to if they had any doubts regarding a computer hardware or software, like if they want to install something, download something, they used to come to me because I knew some stuff as a teenager, and computers those days in India was like very new, the high-tech computers, right? So then I really wanted to get into this field because I'm very well equipped and maybe I can create some impact. So then my professionally, I think, like unprofessionally, I've done so many things, as a college student. But professionally, I think 2020, I was a front-end developer for a startup, which was basically in the solar energy industry. Yeah, so that was my first experience. Yeah,
That's awesome. So you were in that family tech support role. I had very similar experience growing up. I got a lot of weird phone calls from like extended family about how to fix their computer. But you mentioned that you went to school for computer science.
yeah.
It sounds like that wasn't necessarily the driving force in your career, though. Like, what were you doing outside of traditional education to build your skills?
Yeah, not at all a driving force, to be honest, to make that thing clear. So basically, what really helped me was the community, to be honest. One single word which I can explain is basically exploring the communities that helped me to where I am right now. So then, I attended a tech event. It was hosted by Google Developer Groups. I think it's popularly known as DevFest. So that was my first ever event in 2017, and that's where my eyes got open to the community space. Oh, there's a lot of impact, a lot of things we can learn just by attending one single conference, which I couldn't learn in months of university, right? So I thought like, I'm learning real stuff here rather than, the traditional education, which I cannot rely on. And then I told my parents that, hey, I'm not going to do this. I'm just doing it for the sake of the degree, the qualification. But, they also supported me to choose my own ways to experiment. And I really appreciate my parents for that. So that's how I ended up exploring communities. And on one fine day, like, how I entered into DevRel, right? So I was doing community stuff and I emailed a founder that I want to work for your company because it's based on open source. So how can I just be an asset for your company? Like, how can I contribute to your company? And then he took some time, and after a month, I got a response on LinkedIn, I guess, and he said that, hey, there's something called DevRel, which based on your skills, I don't think um, front-end developer can be a good role because my experience was front-end developer, but he saw my soft skills and my non-profit work, which I did as from the community side of things. And he mentioned that, hey, maybe you can be a good fit for DevRel since you have lots of soft skills and exposure to the community space. So then I got to realize that, okay, whatever I was doing, so it aligns with developer evangelism, developer relations, or advocacy. And that's how I got to, and enter the career into this field, and which exactly matched my passion, and helping others to grow, uh, being someone who people can rely on, and that's how I learned and I scaled myself. Yeah.
That's awesome. I made a very similar transition, like I went from being a software developer, I was doing PHP coding, to
Yeah.
developer relations. Um, one of the things that really struck me is when you're a developer, you know, your work is very quantifiable, right? Like, does
Yeah.
my code work? Did I close this
Yeah.
issue? Did I fix this bug? DevRel and community work is a little bit fluffier, right? It's harder to actually understand what's going on.
Yeah.
What's been the most challenging part for you of making that switch?
So, yeah, I mean, there's no one single challenge which I can say that that was the most challenging. But I think the switch was not really challenging for me because whatever I was doing or about to do as a DevRel I was already experienced in the background. Like, I didn't show up professionally, but unprofessionally, I did similar kind of things, and which made my job much easier. But the challenging part is, most of the companies hire single DevRel for the first, startups. They don't have a developer evangelism team of like 5 to 10 people. They don't, right? So I was the first one to be in that company as DevRel, and that was a challenge to, you have to decide your own work, what you should do for the next couple of months, and you should you are the boss of your work, but at the same time, you are the most responsible person of something new that world is seeing after 2020, which is the rise of developer education, right? And that was the most challenging part. But you know the how it how I fixed it is basically there's different DevRels who helped me outside my company, supported each other, and then those kind of communities, really helped me. Twitter community really helped me, and lots of people in the community. We help each other, and then that's how things became easier with time. Yeah, so that was a good phase for transition, and how we started things and made it little better and better with time. Yeah.
How do you know if you're doing a good job in developer relations?
That's a critical question, but I don't think there's a straight answer for that. But for me, I think if you are creating positive impact in the community, then you are doing a good job. Like, you are getting feedback, people are willing to join, excited to join your initiatives, and of course, the end of the day, we need to take care about how many people are joining, how many people are active, and always be communicating to community with the community, right? So these kind of things actually help us to determine whether we are moving forward or not, right?
Right.
I think that's very broad answer, because I don't think we can measure the work. I don't think we should measure the work as well in DevRel, but you should see the overall impact and see the quality of work. And this is a long-term impact, right? If you do something for 3 months, they always consider, this kind of work style. So whatever you do it for 100 days. That means almost 3 months, and then measure the impact. Don't measure that from day one and week. You see the things end of the week, things are not fine. Don't stop it. Right?
Right.
Keep doing it until day 100, and then see the long-term impact, and then improve the process. So that's how I follow it, and that really helped me. Yeah.
So, you're talking about impact, right? You're talking about something that is very personal for the developers in your community. They're also, I imagine, potentially customers or users down the road, but that's not, DevRel's immediate role. Now that you've kind of, shifted your career a bit, right? You're moved from a developer platform to a open source developer platform very explicitly. What are some of the big differences you've seen in what you're responsible for?
So I've been an open source advocate since 2020.
Yeah.
I love open source and I love projects to grow. I want to help projects. And that's why I took that switch again from a developer platform to an open source platform. So let me make sure I'm clear. Like the open source project we are working is Apache DevLake, which is helping DevOps leaders or tech leaders to understand that DevOps processes in a better way. And Apache DevLake provides the solutions for it. So what really, what was really different is this was completely into DevOps. And I really got interested into DevOps in 2021. I need to understand, because the actual engineering of software development is one thing, and software engineering is one thing, right? And people don't understand the difference. But when I got into DevOps, then I understood that this is something, the actual engineering, right? And I would like to advocate and evangelize about this in the community. So that's the major difference. And DevOps is one side of it, and open source is the other big side of it. And in open source, everything is driven by community. Community is the fuel for that project to move forward. But in a developer platform, there's a business side of it, more of a business side of it. But in open source, it's more of a community-oriented side of it. So I don't handle the business operations or align my work with the business of the company. But I just want the community to stay active and stay fueled up all the time. That's my responsibility. So that's the biggest difference I can say.
So basically what you're saying is that in this role where you are doing developer relations for a project that's been handed off to a foundation, right? The health of the community is the primary metric, and it's somewhat disconnected from the actual business of Merico, right? Like they benefit from it being a healthy project and community and development, but you're not necessarily like generating leads for them.
You can say I'm not the source of the leads, right? The leads are not completely dependent on this. This is more like a vitamin to entire cycle. Like it's giving some some things that pushes forward, right? The whole business process. So that's the open core model we follow. So Apache DevLake was the open source project of Merico, and we donated it last November. It's been 1 year. So this is a 1 year celebration of, thank you. So this is the 1 year right now, and we are close to 2,000 stars and 300 community members, and like 50 contributors, and lots of things within the community. So the leads, in the open core model, there is an open source version, but if you need more feature, more support, there's an enterprise version. Like if you're earning money and if you have a big company, big use case, then we prefer, enterprise model, enterprise software, because it has more value to what the problem is, So that's how the things go on. And the best part of open source version is, you get continuous feedback from the community. And through that feedback, you improve your main product, and also make the community, when it comes to developer education, people get to learn a lot of things. And because of open source, you're educating the community, you're getting the feedback. There is a two-way benefit. Like people are learning your software and contributing at the same time. And at the same time, you are getting good feedback. People are getting to know you, what you are doing. It's no marketing. People are truly knowing your software, and you get true customers who want to invest in future. So that's how the model works, right? So that's the main difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really powerful model. Like, I think the fact that it's open source opens up a lot of doors that you don't have with a traditional developer platform. Like, a lot of developer relations teams need to get people to sign up and use the platform to drive their metrics. But with an open source project, like, really, people just need to be using it, and it needs to be advancing, and they need to be engaging with it. But that is a different like motion for a developer to take than signing up. And it probably is stickier in some ways.
Exactly. And there are so many benefits, being an open source project. And whenever you are, especially as a developer, and developers are I think the most biggest community in the whole world than any other community. I believe so, because there are lots of developers, lots of people pursuing software engineering in general in this decade, I can say, than ever before, right? So I feel like open source is one of the best ways to grow as a learner, as a team, and as a company. So it's benefiting everybody in the ecosystem.
Why is open source such a powerful learning vehicle?
So the best part of open source is, if you ask, like if you're stuck anywhere, there's always a community to support you with the answer and the solution. Like, if you're learning something and then you're stuck, and if you want to install a project, if you ask in the community, within like few hours or sometimes within minutes, our community comes and helps them. And I don't think that is possible in any kind of learning ecosystem. And if it is paid, that's a different thing, because there people are learning skills, but here they're applying the skills in the real world. Like, and where they're applying is the project which is going to serve millions, right? And it will also help their portfolio that, hey, I've contributed to this open source project, and this project is now 5,000 stars, and it is serving these companies. That is more valuable than you building, something in your own home and then experimenting yourself, right? So many people are watching your contributions, and I feel like that transition is really fast for any developer. Like learning to becoming an valuable person for a project is really quick. It doesn't take years or even months. Some people do it in days. I've seen that. So that's the major plus point for beginners and for learners who want to get into the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an incredible, it's incredibly accessible that you as a brand new developer can come in and look at an entire code base and all of the discussion around it and all of the changes that have happened over time and engage with that. Now, that can also be somewhat intimidating, right? I know that you've worked on a lot of mentorship programs. I remember you mentioned one called the Unpretentious Web that you worked on for a long time. How do programs that foster mentorship reduce that intimidation factor, right? Like, how do you actually make this more accessible?
So, as you mentioned, the Unpretentious Web was a nonprofit initiative. You know, like during the beginning of lockdown in 2020, when we were suddenly called to get back to homes from the hostels where we were living in the college. So I was thinking what we should do now. Like, I was just thinking, and then suddenly, that thing popped up that I should start something to make this more accessible, because now the remote world is about to start and people are just confused what to do, where to learn. So I thought, let's help like 10 people in my network, and that's it. That's enough for me. And that I think it started with a small LinkedIn post. I posted on LinkedIn about this in 2020, and people were actually interested. And then they joined. It was a WhatsApp group. Honestly, it started with a WhatsApp group, and then it expanded its reach. So what you should be doing to make it more accessible is basically voice out your ideas. There would be someone who is looking out there, who is hungry to learn or who is hungry to grow. There's always someone. And don't hesitate, if whether it's a small initiative or whether it's not so big, but just do it. There's always a learning. And I can proudly say that, it was a great learning. I think without Unpretentious Web, I wouldn't be a DevRel now. Those small things added a lot in the end. And if you see the success of such programs, there was a member in our community. He actually paid his own college fees after joining the community. He learned skills, did freelancing, which he didn't do before joining the community. And I used to do like one-on-one mentoring, like if they are interested. So my passion, which is different from professional thing, is to help people to find their own passion. Like I also have an Instagram page called The Witty Mentor. So what I really do is mentor people to, don't follow the crowd, but just follow your own way. And there will be always something that's waiting for you. And I strongly believe in that principle. So I helped these guys in the Unpretentious Web. It was not only just web developer related community. It started like that, but evolved into like, it was for everyone. If a developer wants to try out design, just do it and see if it is helping you out, and if you're connecting with that philosophy and the mentality of a designer, right? So this way, like there are lots of people who have got benefited. Like one guy paid his own college fee, and he said that thanks for helping me, and that's it. We don't need money. We just need that that happy faces that motivated me to do more for the community.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Very philosophically aligned to a lot of the work we do at MLH, in our open source fellowship or even in our hackathons. So I'm curious, like, I know that you said that this is kind of your personal passion project, but how do you incorporate mentorship into your DevRel strategy? Like, why should companies care about helping the next generation?
So, like, I'll give an example of the Junior Developer Evangelist program, which we started, and I'm leading that initiative. This is a unique initiative, which I have never seen, an evangelist program, like training people to become a developer evangelist is something really new, because there are lots of things that are spoken in the community, like if you want to be a DevRel, you need to become a developer first, work for 5 years, and then transition into DevRel. I don't think it's true for all situations, right? Everybody is different, everybody works differently. So why companies should invest in mentorship, right? So if you think these programs like an asset. I always say, like, community is an asset. Like, community is the one that will drive the business in future, right? And that's true for most of the companies. Even for MLH, I see like you also have some mentorship programs student programs. So why they should invest that? Number one, if you help a student to transition from A to B, right? They will remember your name for life, right? They will remember your company, and they will remember that this is the one. They'll be testifying about your program. They'll be just talking about it whenever the opportunity comes in. And this becomes the real marketing, right? You're not just bluffing up the stuff like, we have so many features and you just try it out. There are real people and real proof that this worked. And these can act as a future asset, like in some or the other way. And I think every company has taken this, this kind of a model. Even Microsoft, I think Microsoft learned student ambassadors. And because of that, Microsoft Azure users became like the more and more, because they give some Microsoft credits to try out their own products and participate in their own open source initiatives and stuff like that. And as a company, you're getting the feedback, and you're also getting the future users, right? In the very early stages. And that can help the company as providing such mentorship opportunities. Developer education has become so important for any organization, because that can turn into a bigger asset in future.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also feel like, companies can get meaningful ROI from working with people who are early in their careers, right? Like what you're talking about is, if you impact someone, almost that will like karmically pay itself back. But I also think that, like, regardless of skill level, developers can build products. They can introduce your product into organizations. They can make real pull requests or commits to your open source projects. Like, there are all of these things that I think we often underestimate the ability for early career folks to do, but they can have a real impact if you keep an open mind about where your community is at skills wise.
Yeah. So I would like to just highlight this thing. What's really important for the developer at the early stages is not the number of years of experience, right? It's about the depth of your work, or depth of the knowledge you have in that ecosystem. And how will it happen, right? How will that depth come is through early exposure. The earlier you get into the ecosystem, the more open-minded you become at the early stages of your career, then your work will become, automatically impactful. And that's how I think, I like in software industry, I don't think there's a grading like A grade level, B grade level software developer. There's nothing like that, because that doesn't exist, right? Because it's all about, even an intern can do a big thing, which maybe a senior developer didn't do at that moment, right? It's all about at that particular time, what are the problems you're solving? And the best part of developer education is when you allow a beginner to understand your project, you get new perspective. You make your software more compatible and more accessible at the same time. Because, I've seen like CTOs and, CEOs come from a really PhD background, and really, they have a geeky mindset, they always think the problem in the hard way, but when you give that same microphone to a beginner, he will try to explain in the easiest way. And there's a saying that if you want to be a successful developer evangelist, explain something to a 5-year-old and you will become a good developer evangelist in future. So yeah, this is something I wanted to mention. Yeah.
That's a great recommendation. If you can explain Apache Dev Lake to a 5-year-old, you've probably won the developer evangelism game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So just to kind of like finish up on some recommendations here, what would you recommend to other organizations out there who are thinking about how they want to engage with developers, how they want to educate developers?
So my recommendation should be like, start an open source program if you didn't have, and see, you know, like invest in such initiatives. That's the number one recommendation. And it will be a two-way benefit. You are helping someone to grow from one level to another. And at the same time, it is coming back to your company and to your project automatically through the value you provided them. And if you start these kind of initiatives, you might not see the impact in maybe 1 or 2 months, but maybe after 5 months or 6 months, you will be able to see its reward as a company. Because if you are investing something, definitely you would be thinking of the returns, right? Like why I should do that, why I should spend so much time and energy into those initiatives, right? So just do it, and these are going to get long-term impact, especially for dev platforms and dev-oriented ecosystems. This is the best way to drive the community and fuel up the community and make it alive. Because I've seen people complaining that the community is just dying. That's the that's the thing I've seen on Twitter. The community is dying. We don't know what to do. If you bring new things, exciting things to the developers, there's always something a person wants to pursue all the time, right? He wants to grow as an individual. So it's always important to bring new things, new quality for the community. Don't stick to the old traditional methods to engage, but always try to think something new and make it more interesting for developers to engage. I think that's the way to succeed. Yeah.
Yeah, I also think it solves an existential need for open source projects and developer platforms, which is that they need new people coming in and getting excited about it for them to survive and grow, and that's really incredibly valuable in the long term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. And then this is kind of our fun last question I like to close out with, but is there anyone in the tech world that you would most want to take to lunch that you've never met before?
Okay. So there's a friend of mine. She's also at DevRel at GitHub, Rizal Scarlett.
Yeah. She's awesome.
So, yeah, she's awesome. I did a podcast a couple of times with her, but I haven't met. But she also comes from a beginner background, and she did a lot of things for the for the women community, for the Black community in the US. So I would definitely pick her first before I pick anyone else. Yeah.
That's awesome. I actually met her very recently at a conference called All Things Open in Raleigh.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
She's just as cool in person as she is on the internet. So
yeah, definitely.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate hearing all of your insights and recommendations. I love the work you're doing at Apache, DevLake, and Marico. And where can people find you on the internet if they want to see what you're up to?
So you can just go to Twitter and just Joshua and Poddoku, Poddoku. I'll be there, and there's a website of me, Joshua Pod, POD, the podcast pod.com. So wanted to make it simpler to access. So yeah, I'm available here, and DM me if you need any kind of guidance or support. If you're feeling, if you are stuck in your careers, don't know what to do, just DM me anytime. I'll always happy to help. Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Josh, and happy hacking, everyone.
The State of Developer Education is brought to you by Major League Hacking, or MLH. To find out more about MLH and how we power innovation, cultivate developer communities, and teach technical skills to students around the world, visit mlh.io. And then make sure to search for Developer Education in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at MLH, thanks for listening and helping us empower the next generation of technologists. Happy hacking!